Right. So today we'll start off with the basics of neuroanatomy. We'll not go into a lot of detail. This will be a short session to just orient you to the basics of neuroanatomy, and we'll then see how it goes from there. If you guys have any doubts or any queries, then I want you to be able to ask them straight away. Right. All right. So let's start off with the basics. The brain is located inside the skull. What are the three layers around the brain? Can anyone tell me?
Sir, outer one is dura.
Right.
After second layer is arachnoid. Inner layer is pia mater.
Dura, arachnoid, and pia mater. And how? Where are the sinuses? Sinuses situated?
Between dura and arachnoid, I think.
Right. The sinuses are situated between the dura and the arachnoid. All right. So let's start off with the basics. What are the four lobes in the brain? This is your skull. We'll dissect it from point to point gradually, right? I want you guys to participate actively in this. What are the lobes present in the brain?
Frontal, temporal, parietal, occipital.
Right. So we'll dissect these parts. Right. Now this is our frontal lobe. Right. This is where it gets separated. This is where it gets separated. This, right? So this here will be the frontal lobe. This here will be the parietal lobe. This here will be the temporal lobe. And this here will be the occipital lobe. All right, clear so far? Now you have to tell me the parts. What is this gyrus? What is this one called? What is this one called?
Post-central gyrus.
Precentral. And then this one, the one that is highlighted, is called post-central. Right? Then this one is here. This is where most of our psychiatry lies. Any issues with the parietal lobe, any issues with the temporal lobe, occipital lobe will by and large now be treated by your neurophysicians. But our mastery lies specifically in the frontal lobe and more so in the prefrontal cortex. Right? So let's go deeper into the frontal lobe. Right? Let's go deeper into the frontal lobe. Let's dissect your eye out. So here is where the prefrontal cortex lies. Now, can anyone tell me the three parts of the prefrontal cortex? And what are the functions of these three parts? Anyone?
Sir, orbitofrontal,
Right.
ventromedial prefrontal cortex, and dorsolateral prefrontal cortex.
Right. So there are three parts of your prefrontal cortex. Right. And that is, you have the DLPFC, dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. You have the VMPFC, ventromedial prefrontal cortex. And you have the orbitofrontal cortex. Now, can anyone tell me the functions of these three parts? Can anyone tell me the functions of these three parts? The DLPFC is responsible for your executive function. Dorsolateral prefrontal cortex is responsible for the executive function. The ventromedial prefrontal cortex is mainly responsible for anyone?
Affect regulation.
Affect regulation. So the amotivation, the negative symptoms of schizophrenia, these will mainly be controlled by the VMPFC. And the orbitofrontal cortex is responsible for anyone? Orbitofrontal cortex is responsible for? It is also known as the hedonic hotspot, but it is also very much responsible as the inhibitory center of the brain. So whenever you have an urge to, which is say the loss of inhibition, which happens in frontal cortex, the frontal lobe issues which lead to loss of inhibition, the inappropriate, societal inappropriate behavior, that is mainly governed by the orbitofrontal cortex. And that is why in issues with orbitofrontal cortex, you will see problems which have happened with maintaining inhibition. So always remember these three main parts of the prefrontal cortex, because that is the part of the brain that we are dealing with mainly in psychiatry. You are obviously dealing with the hippocampus and the hypothalamus and all those things, but the part of the cortex that you are mainly dealing with in psychiatry is the frontal cortex, and you have dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for executive function. How can you check executive function? You ask the patient to make a list, sequence of events. How is a patient able to regulate the things that are planned in a day? Those all things. These are executive functions. Your planning of daily things and scheduling. Your ventromedial prefrontal cortex is responsible, like you said, for affect regulation. And the orbitofrontal cortex is the main part of the brain which will help us in inhibiting the wrong things that you want to do. So inappropriate behavior will be inhibited by the orbitofrontal cortex. Is it clear so far?
Yes.
Any doubts in this one? Any doubts in this one so far?
No.
All right. Shall we go ahead then? Now tell me, what is this? What is this?
Cingulate gyrus.
Cingulate gyrus. And what does it do? It is mainly responsible for the fact that we are motivated or not motivated, to put into simple terms, but it is also responsible for a lot of activities which have to do with our emotions, memory, and learning as well. Right? All right so far? Is it all right so far?
Yes, yes.
It is a part of the limbic system. Now, what are the parts of the Papes circuit? There is a simple mnemonic to remember that, and I'll tell you what are the parts of the Papes circuit. How do you remember that? Does anyone know that? Can anyone help me do that? Does anyone know Papes circuit? Sorry, go on. Yeah, go on.
So hippocampus,
Right.
Fornix, mammillary body,
Right.
anterior thalamic nucleus,
Mm-hmm.
so that's all I remember.
All right. Anyone else wants to give it a try? What are the parts of the Papes circuit? Anyone can just help me with that, and then we'll take it ahead.
Hippocampus, anterior cingulate cortex, mammillary body, mammillary thalamic tract, anterior thalamic nucleus.
Right. So see, I'll show you a simple mnemonic to make sure that you remember that. Right. You're able to see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So remember this mnemonic, M, and write along if you want to, MATCH. All right. Now, what does the H stand for?
The hippocampus,
Hippocampus. And where does the H go to? Hippocampus connects with the
Mammillary body.
mammillary
mammillary
body,
body. And how does it connect? What is this white matter fiber called?
fornix,
Fornix. All right. Now, how is the mammillary body connected with what does AT stand for?
anterior
Anterior
thalamic,
nucleus of thalamus.
Anterior nucleus of thalamus. And what are these two connected by?
Mammillothalamic tract.
Right. Mammillothalamic tract. All right. Then what does the AT to C stand for?
So to singulate gyrus.
Cingulate gyrus. Good. And what is this tract called?
Fimbria.
It is called the thalamocortical tract. All right. And finally, the cingulate gyrus will be connected to one more thing before it goes to the hippocampus. And this thing is called the parahippocampal gyrus, or the entorhinal cortex. I'll show these to you as well, but just to be clear about the names of things, it's important for you to just memorize them first. After that, I'll definitely show you where these things are situated as well. Right? So the parahippocampal gyrus or the entorhinal cortex is connected to the hippocampus through first the cingulate gyrus connected to the parahippocampal gyrus through the cingulum. All right. And the parahippocampal gyrus or entorhinal cortex and hippocampus, they are very much neighbors. So this is where you see that happening. Now you will be able to visualize the Papes circuit. See, these layers are going. All right, let's get rid of the skull. So keep telling me the names of structures. This is the cingulate cortex or the cingulate gyrus. What is this? What is this area? What is this? This is the basal ganglia. What are the three parts of basal ganglia? Can anyone tell me the three parts of basal ganglia?
Caudate, putamen, globus pallidum.
Right.
Pallidus.
What is this part? What is A?
Caudate
Caudate.
nucleus.
Caudate. Why is it called caudate? Because it looks like a tail.
Tail.
And what is this one? This one here?
Lentiform nucleus.
This is putamen, sir.
Right? And what is this structure here? This one at the end of the caudate nucleus here. This small body, this
Mammillary.
small one,
Mammillary body.
this one. This is responsible. You're able to see, right? Which one I'm talking about? This one.
Amygdala.
Yeah, this is responsible for all your anger and fear. All right. So if you visualize the neuroanatomy, it is really interesting. And this is how you will be able to see and memorize the functions of various parts of the brain only if you're able to visualize how the neuroanatomy is. So that is why a very important part of the series of neuroanatomy sessions is this basic introduction to the lobes and the parts of the brain. Because I've seen a lot of third-year trainees and even senior residents not knowing where these structures are lying actually. Right? Are we clear so far?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any doubts, any parts of the brain that you want to specifically see in this atlas? All right. So let me get rid of the cingulate cortex of the basal ganglia as well. Right? Then what do we see here? What are these? These are the ventricles. This is the lateral ventricle. This is the third ventricle. Right? Should I get rid of these lateral ventricles as well? Then we'll be able to see the limbic system properly.
Yes, sir.
Right? So let's get rid of the third ventricle as well. Right? All right. All right. And let me get rid of all right. So what is this now? Tell me. What is this structure? This one. What is that? Can anyone tell me what is that?
Hippocampus.
Right. Good. And what is there around it then? This is the hippocampus. Right? Now this is the inducium griseum. Not very important for us from psychiatry point of view. But this is where you will see the fornix. And the fornix, as you can remember, connects the, what does it connect? MATCH?
Hippocampus and mammillary body.
Right, exactly. So here is your mammillary body. Mammillary body, as you might know, is a part of mammillary body is a part of what structure? Hypothalamus, ever heard of that? See, this is mainly your hypothalamus. What are the various nuclei in the hypothalamus? We'll see hypothalamus, thalamus, all these parts in detail. But I just want you to get oriented to various parts of the brain. This is the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus is connected here below it to the pituitary. And this is the infundibulum, right? This is the pituitary. You're able to see the various parts getting highlighted, right?
Yes, sir.
This one is the pituitary. This one is the infundibulum. This one here is the hypothalamus. These are your thalami. All right. So we'll see all these parts in detail over the coming few weeks. This one is your cerebellum. Once you dissect the cerebellum, you're able to see the midbrain, pons, and medulla. This one is the midbrain, this is the pons, and this is the medulla. And we'll see that also in quite a bit of detail. So we'll study normal neuroanatomy first, and then we'll go into a bit of detail regarding everything. Do you guys have any questions that you want to see, or any questions that you want to ask as far as this first orientation session is concerned?
Sir, where is thalamus located?
Here, this one. Right?
Okay, sir.
All right. So what I will do is I will put on my number in the chat box. So anyone who wants to see these videos, or anyone who wants to get added to the group where we're taking the sessions, just make sure that you drop in a message to me. I will add you to the relevant groups. If you want the link to the YouTube channel where I'll upload these sessions as well, I'll send them to you as well. Just save this number and let me know as to how do we go ahead about it. Next time I'll try to do it post 9 p.m. India time so that more people are able to attend. But otherwise, I think by and large, we already have 8-9 people already. So which is a good, decent amount. My main goal is to record these and make sure that these are on YouTube so you can access this at any time. So even 3-4 students are more than enough. Right? So I'll see you guys in the next one. Text me if you guys have any doubts, anything that you want to cover specifically, but we'll take different parts of the brain. Mainly as far as psychiatry is concerned, we are concerned with the frontal lobe. We'll study that in detail. We'll study frontal lobe syndrome, which is a commonly asked question. We'll study the abnormalities of various lobes. We'll study limbic system, hypothalamus, which are long questions, which are commonly asked. And then we'll go into the brainstem as well. All right. So have a good evening, guys. And this was a brief introduction. I'll put this up on YouTube and send you the link. Let me know. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.